Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, the Budget Department has released the first tranche of the government's fuel subsidy for the public transport sector. But is this enough? Philippine Ambassador to the U.S., Jose Manuel Dave Romualdez, says the country is ready to assist America should the war between Russia and Ukraine reach Asia. And will President Rodrigo Duterte endorse a presidential candidate? Acting presidential spokesperson Martin Andanar joins us live. A coalition of public transport groups warns of a nationwide transport strike on Tuesday if government will not address the impact of rising fuel prices.
Kapag hindi ho umakto ang gobyerno at hindi nila pakinggan ang tao, hihintayin pa ba nila na huminto ang operasyon? Hindi ho ito isang babala, hindi ho ito isang threat. Pero paano ho lalabas ang isang ordinaryong mamamayan kung hindi na sa kumikita sa sobrang taas ng bayarin sa gasolina pa lang? Kung walang kita, bakit ka pa lalabas? Kung nalulugi ka lang, bakit ka pa lalabas?
The Budget Department has already released 2.5 billion pesos in fuel subsidy funds to be distributed next week. The second tranche of 2.5 billion pesos will be given in April. Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have acting presidential spokesperson Martin Andanar. Secretary Andanar, welcome back to the source. It's been a while. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Pinky. Good morning to all your viewers, and it's great to be back.
Good to see you, sir. Let's talk about the 2.5 billion ayuda first, the first tranche. So the DBM has already said that it has been released from the DBM and it will be up to the LTFRB to distribute this. Will you be able to tell us or the public transport sector exactly when nila matatanggap itong ayuda nila?
This is exactly what we talked about during the mini cabinet or the talk to the people with President Duterte last Monday. The recommendation to release the 2.5 billion pesos subsidy for the transport sector. So this is already in the Government Appropriations Act. It's just a matter of distributing, like what you said, Pinky, when and where. What's important is the money has been downloaded, and we have an agency called the LTFRB that is directed to do the distribution.
So it's really up to the LTFRB to distribute this. How much will they be getting, sir? Is it 6,500 pesos each?
I don't have the exact numbers with me, Pinky. I'm sorry, I can't answer that, but let me get back to you on that.
Okay, but it's been said that it's about 6,500 pesos each. Yung tanong po dito, Sec. Andanar, is sino po ba yung makakatanggap nito? Drivers po ba ng bus, jeep, taxi, TNBS? Paano po yung mga delivery riders and tricycle drivers? Has that been ironed out?
I understand, first and foremost, it will be the drivers of the jeepneys and the other transportation modes. If it includes the drivers of the last mile delivery, I'm not too certain about that, but let me find out if that is included in the original policy. As we all know, we have different subsectors in the transport sector that have sprung, like the last mile delivery, the Grab, food delivery, the Food Panda, etc.
Opo, yung mga delivery riders, nagtatanong ho kasi sila kung kasama sila sa ayuda. In fact, even taxi drivers, but I believe taxi drivers are included. Pati yung mga TNVS. Would you be able to tell us, at least for those watching us, what is the process by which they need to follow to be able to receive this Pantawid Pasada ayuda?
The LTFRB and the Department of Transportation already have an existing mechanism how to distribute ayuda or a subsidy from the government, especially during times of oil crisis. Now, with the details, exactly, I don't have the exact details how they do that, but I am supposing that it is similar as how the DSWD would distribute their ayuda to the sectors that are vulnerable.
I'm not sure if you're aware, Secretary, but there are some drivers complaining that they might not be able to get the full amount because this is supposed to go to the operators first, by which the operators will transfer this to the drivers. Any idea on possible problems in the event that hindi pumapunta talaga to sa mga drivers?
You know, there are always concerns and worries, and it's great that our fellow, the driver, the Filipino drivers, as usual, they would raise these concerns just to remind the government that to ensure that the mechanism is properly followed, so that the money would really go direct or straight to the driver. Yung kung saan sadyang ibigay ang pera ay dapat makarating doon. Now, for any, if there are any concerns of drivers having not been able to receive the ayuda, they can always contact the Department of Transportation or my office or the presidential hotline 8888.
Okay, so I'm obviously it's certain that you don't know too much about this. This is probably really between the DOTR/LTFRB and the operators and drivers. But apart from that, Sec Andanar, kasi pinag-uusapan po yung ayuda para sa public transport sector. Is there going to be such a thing as ayuda for the rest of the public? Because we can expect increases in prices of basic commodities. Was there any talk of such with the president last Monday, I believe, or Tuesday?
When the NEDA explained or presented its recommendation to the president, the NEDA was practically showing us the value chain. So from the drivers of in the transport sector all the way to the farmers of the agricultural sector. Obviously, pag tumaas ang langis at pag hindi natulungan, pag hindi na subsidize ang ating mga transport groups or mga drivers na bumibili ng gasolina o diesel, ay tataas yung presyo ng pamasahe. Pag tumaas yung presyo ng pamasahe, maapektuhan yung tao. Ganon din sa transport, sa agrikultura. Because if oil goes up, then the price of rice goes up, corn goes up. Pag tumaas yung corn, tataas din ang bilihin ng mga manok, ng mga livestock na dependent sa corn as feeds. So it's an entire ecosystem in the agricultural sector na maapektuhan. So the NEDA, the economic cluster, they recommended a few policies the president can apply to stave the effects of the looming energy crisis. Now, yung ating isa nga yan, yung 2.5 billion pesos na bibigay sa transport groups. Tapos it's good that you ask about the other drivers, because you know that when you say other drivers, that includes those who bring the agricultural products from the farm to the market. Siyempre apektado din sila. So it's great that you raised that.
Okay, but napag-usapan din noon, SEC, no, 2.5 billion initially, and there was a proposal to add another 2.5 billion for the public transport sector. That's a total of 5 billion pesos. And you mentioned farmers and fishermen. There's also 500 million pesos na ayuda para sa kanila, and an additional 500 million pesos, which totals 1 billion pesos for the farmers and fishermen as well. So just to go back to my previous question, yung pong ayuda for the others, hindi, tanggalin na po natin yung public transport, farmers and fishermen. Was there any
Okay.
talk of possible cash aid to other people, sir?
Alam mo, that is the reason why the DBM also raised some concerns about the excise taxes. Na kapag ito ay inalis pansamantala, ay maapektuhan ang ating ibang serbisyo, especially in the social services, the DSWD, the DOH, and the possible tupad program. Kawing-kawing na ito, Pinky. And of course, napag-usapan yon. Kaya nga maraming mga nagbibigay ng kanilang rekomendasyon about the excise tax. At the same time, in DBM naman, sila ni OIC Kanda, ay sinasabi nila kung ano yung mga posibleng mangyari. Meron ding mga suwestyon na taasan yung minimum wage. Of course, we want people to have more or higher salaries compared to what the minimum wage earners are making now. But you also have to consider the employers.
The plight of the employers.
Yes.
Okay. So fuel prices, seems like we can expect another round of increases next week, but we need to take a very short break. The Source with Secretary Martin Andanar. We'll be right back. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Our guest today, Acting Presidential Spokesperson Martin Andanar. Secretary, just for the record, is government averse? Are they against the suspension of excise taxes?
No. The government is not averse to that. It's been discussed during the talk to the people of the president, and there were recommendations as well. Now it is really just a matter of balancing act. You need to consider also which services we have in government that are dependent on the excise taxes, like the DOH, the DSWD, and other agencies in government that get their sources of fund from the excise tax. So remember, if you don't have the source of fund, then there's no uses of fund to talk about.
I spoke to Senator Gatchalian yesterday, and he gave us a figure that if excise taxes were to be suspended, government will be seeing 90 billion pesos in losses, again, if suspended. But right now, sir, there are a number of measures that government is implementing, such as the, Pantawid Pasada, to the drivers, and of course ayuda for farmers and fishermen as well. But what is the standard you think? Kasi marami pa rin calls, sir, to obviously suspend excise taxes, which will be easier for government to implement, I'm assuming. By what standard or measurement was it talked about? Will government actually really consider suspending the excise taxes?
We talked about the possible non-stop increase of oil, just as the DBM, the economic cluster, was also talking about the $80 per barrel ceiling before we consider giving the ayuda or the transport ayuda of 2.5 billion, and we're talking about 3 months of average $80 per barrel. Yeah, that's the consideration. Now, according to so many forecasters, economists, it's possible that oil could rise to 120 pesos per barrel, and inflation could double from 3 to 6%. So these are factors that the government is seriously looking into. We have to look into this before we consider any solution like the one suggested about the excise taxes. So mahirap, Pinky, mahirap yung balancing act. We're still not out of the woods sa COVID pandemic, and then now we have this. So, yeah.
Understandable, no, sir? Because maraming pinagpopondahan yung nakukuha sa revenues from excise taxes. But wala ho bang napag-usapan na kapag umabot ng so and so, 100, let's say $150 per barrel, automatic na kailangan na natin tanggalin tong excise tax para matulungan ng publiko. Was there such talk?
Wala namang napag-usapan ng ganyan. Ang napag-usapan lang din ay yung halimbawa, yung pag-expand ng supply and reduce price by extending the lower tariff 50% and quota pagdating sa pork, no, sa baboy. Tapos napag-usapan din yung as usual, the buffer stock of rice. Yeah, yung access volume, yung rice, buffer stocks, napalakin yung buffer stock din ng hindi lang ng national kundi pati ng LGU. Ways we can avert a possible economic crisis. These are band-aid solutions, as you understand, and our decisions would depend on the escalation of the problem in Ukraine, obviously, and Russia.
What about a special session? Is the president inclined to call for a special session?
Napag-usapan din yan, Pinky. When it is needed, then the president will do that. As a matter of fact, it was also discussed in the Talk to the People that apart from the special session, prior to that would be the recommendation of changing some policies when it comes to excise taxes.
What about this call of Congressman Salceda for a state of economic emergency? Is the president open to that? And really, what does that mean, or what does that even entail?
The president is open to all of the suggestions. I said in one interview that the entire government is listening and ready to listen to some more suggestions. I mean, there's so many experts that we have out there. And that's the advantage of President Duterte, I suppose. He listens to so many people, so many suggestions. No one has a monopoly of solutions to problems. And he's very careful on deciding. Marami kasi, there's so many, this confluence of so many events. I mean, there's an election in a couple of months. Nandyan yung COVID-19. We need more people vaccinated. So far, we have 60 million fully vaccinated Filipinos. We still have about 50 million to vaccinate. The reopening of the economy, and now this war in Ukraine that could possibly escalate to a war in Europe, or perhaps wag naman sana, a world war.
But it's a serious concern, certainly, Secretary, for the public right now, because again, next week there is that talk that dahil tumaas po yung barrels again, but this will have to be averaged on a weekly basis. We understand that fuel prices get an average in 1 week before the actual increase is definitive, how much it will be increased the week after. I think that happens every Tuesday. So sa ngayon, wala pa pong calls for a special session.
Wala pa po, but we have another meeting on Monday, and we shall be updated by the Department of Finance and the NEDA and the Department of Trade and Industry. Napakahirap talaga sapagkat first of all, we're not an oil-producing country like the Middle East. So tayo maasa lamang sa langis ng ibang bansa. Kaya every time we're affected. We have OFWs all over the world. We still have a COVID situation. We have an election, general elections coming. So, and we only have 3 months, barely 4 months before we exit, before the president steps down. So the marching order of the president is to ensure that a proper transition is being done. And it can only be done if we solve this looming economic crisis, or perhaps lay the foundation to solve this.
Opo. You had mentioned before we go on a break, sir, yung nangyayari nga sa Russia and Ukraine, na there was a statement made by Ambassador Babe Romualdez. Basically, El Cote, no? He says, sabi po niya, if they're asking for support of the Philippines, sabi po ni Ambassador, he was very clear. That means the president, if push comes to shove, the Philippines will be ready to be part of the effort, especially if this Ukrainian crisis spills over the Asian region. Sabi po niya, and they add, especially to our ally, the United States, in using our facilities, any facilities that they may need, sabi po ni Ambassador Romualdez, and these facilities could be open for the U.S., including Subic, Zambales, Clark in Pampanga. Any more information on this? Was this also discussed during the Talk to the People last Monday?
It wasn't discussed during the Talk to the People because Ambassador Romualdez was in another room and I wasn't privy to that meeting. But then, judging on what the president mentioned just a few days ago, that the Philippines is ready to receive victims of the war in Ukraine, just as President Quezon did with Israelis back in the day. Now, if you ask me about how the mutual defense treaty and opening up all of the agreements that we have with the United States, and I would defer it to Secretary
Ambassador. Pero sabi niyo po, we are open to receiving refugees. Is that what you meant?
Yes, we are.
And we are prepared for this in the event it happens.
Yeah, we are. I think we're more than prepared more than ever. We have done this in the past. We are a country that's battered by typhoons more than 20 times a year. We just had the COVID-19 lockdowns. We have all the facilities that can be used as temporary refugee camps.
Have any been identified?
Oh, none yet. But I'm just assuming. Yeah.
Opo. Okay, again, we need to take a very short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Our guest today, acting presidential spokesperson Martin Andanar. Let's talk politics. Sino ho ba talaga ang i-endorse ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte? Meron kayong mga hints kahapon?
My last conversation with the president was when he had himself interviewed by yours truly, and he said that he may or he may not endorse a presidential candidate. It would depend if there's a compelling reason to. If we look at the body language of the president and his pronouncements, obviously he said that he's supporting Inday Sara, his daughter, but leaving that
President blank.
Position vacant. And he also encouraged us in the cabinet to stay away from the presidential derby, not to side with anyone, lest we be accused of using our
Position.
Machinery, maquinaria, or position or bureaucracy para manalo isa. And that's what we're doing, yeah.
But didn't you give hints? Didn't you say yung i-endorse niya may letter O? O kung may letter O, halos lahat yung 5 o 6 na, well, Bongbong Marcos, Leni Robredo, Isko Moreno, Manny Pacquiao. Huh?
It was a very tricky question. It was a tricky question from former CNN correspondent Ina Andulong and Mike Fahatin. So obviously there's so many O's, so I don't really know who is endorsing. But the president was recorded in Narvacan saying that bumili na kayo kung sino Ilocano gusto ninyo. As I said, he likes to joke around. sometimes he says all of these things, and pag sineryoso namin, kami lang mababaya eh.
Wait a minute. But yung sinabi niyong may letter O, so marami yun. Pero dinagdagan mo
Yeah.
walang letter U. So just for the record, yun ho ba were you joking or is that true? Because if walang U, that takes away Pacquiao and Leody de Guzman. So marami pa pong pasok. Pasok pa si Bongbong Marcos, pasok pa si Lenny Robredo, pasok pa po si...
Talagang lumaki talaga yung storya. Again, that was one of the fast talk questions, and so I didn't know the questions ahead of time, so I needed to just trust on my instincts, which letter I should mention. Hindi pwede. That wasn't from the president. That was only from me.
That was what, sir?
That wasn't from the president. The comment there.
So
it was,
that's
from me.
That's just you assuming.
Yeah.
Tama ho ba, who the president could possibly endorse?
Yeah, because obviously, if I say "oh," then there's
Lahat sila pasok.
Number of candidates that have the letter O in their names, and when I said "you," it was an answer. Yeah, it was an answer based on my instinct. Sabi ko, sino ba may mga pangalang U? Parang kukunti lang naman ng tao sa mundo na may letter U yung pangalan. So I had to choose U. But yung pala, meron palang dalawa. But to Leody and to Kal Leody and Manny Pacquiao, that was just me commenting. That wasn't the president.
Okay, so at least we're clear on that. Let me clear my video. Hold on. Okay. So malinaw na po tayo doon na inyo lang po yun. That was you just hinting and assuming, sir. Because sabi mo, based on the body language of the president, parang ganun na lang po kayo nag-evaluate kung sino yung kanyang i-endorse, if at all he endorses anyone.
The president holds his cards very close to his chest that no one can see it. We've had the president for 5 years and 7 months, and he does that all the time. He doesn't play by the playbook. He has his own playbook, and his playbook evolves all the time. So it's so difficult to catch him, even if you're there in proximity. Mahirap. Yeah. So I guess that's his style, and he will continue doing that until the last day of his presidency.
Then you might have a very difficult job as acting presidential spokesperson.
Well, good thing there's an election, so people will talk about me.
You just have a couple of months. Secretary Martin Andanar, sir, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Pinky. It's great to be back, and really, it's a privilege to be here.
Take care, sir.
On your show.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.